Real solutions and real change with workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our emphasis is magnificent. Bringing light to the poor where the business is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, our best aligned.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so tag you're it. You be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. All you got to do is type in Dr. Nii-Q, D-R-N-I-I-Q, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you will never miss an episode. I have got to say, it's been quite a day. It's been quite a day. I just got in front of my computer after a long day at the White House. So much to share with you about what happened today at the White House. But right now, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. He doesn't feel safe. The family speaking out after a teen with disabilities is mistakenly detained by federal agents. NBC News reporting that the mother of a 15-year-old California boy who was briefly detained by federal agents at gunpoint. In this case of mistaken identity, recalled the terrifying interaction in an interview today. Adriana Mejia said that she was parked at the curb outside Arleta High School on Monday just to enroll her daughter. And at the same time, her son, Baldemar Gutierrez, who has special needs, he was with her. And then all of a sudden, a truck pulled up behind Mrs. Mejia's car, and a group of masked men, they poured out of the truck to surround her and her son. Now, LAUSD Superintendent Alberto Carvalho, he described the incident during a news conference on Tuesday, if you might remember that. He added that the surveillance video that was captured, captured agents wearing police and Border Patrol insignia taking the teen into custody. California Governor Gavin Newsom, he's clearly become a target in a immigration crackdown by President Trump's administration. So much that earlier this month, an appeals court kept in place an LA federal judge's ruling that bars immigration agents from using a person's spoken language or job, like day laborer, as the sole pretext to detain them. This really lifts up a very important question. And we're going to get into this question with our guest, Dr. Calvin John Smiley, in just a moment. But it brings up a very important question. You know, and I know that federal law enforcement, specifically these ICE agents, the National Guard that's been federalized, they're not trained in local policing. And so who's to say this isn't going to happen again? Who's to say this isn't going to become an epidemic across the country from DC to LA and everywhere in between? And so earlier today, I actually took this question, a question that I asked earlier this week, you might remember, in the White House briefing room to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who claims to read the LA Times every day and question the validity of the story, the credibility of the story. And so I haven't heard back from Caroline yet. So I took this question to President Trump today in the Oval Office. And when we come forward, I'm going to play you a little bit of what the president said to me. His response to what can you do to ensure parents that their kids aren't going to get caught up in this, knowing that the National Guard and ICE agents are not trained in these kinds of interactions. I'm going to give you a chance to hear directly from the President of the United States. And you decide whether or not his answer is satisfactory in the world according to you. That's what we're going to do. But in other news, did you hear about the DC police chief issuing a policy allowing officers to assist in federal immigration enforcement while the Trump administration announces more than 24 immigration arrests? The Washington Post is reporting that White House officials signaled today that the Trump administration's takeover of DC police would also help ramp up federal efforts to crack down on immigration, as the DC police chief rolled out a policy allowing officers to assist in federal immigration enforcement. This is a change in policy. More than 24 immigrants have been detained in DC just this week as the Trump administration has taken over the district's police force. And those officials characterize it as a sign that DC's sanctuary city policy was no longer in effect. If this can happen in Washington, D.C., are other cities next? Is New York next? Is Chicago next? Is Oakland next? Is LA next? I don't know. But these are questions that need answers. When we come forward, we're going to separate the fact from the fiction and try and get a handle on where things are trending, not just here in DC, where I'm broadcasting live, but across the country. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Dr. Calvin John Smiley joins me when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Febreze.
It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now, all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze. La 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 la.
Hot hair. Let's bring the nail gun over here.
Jose stands tall atop his sustainable flooring company.
Totally. It's renewable and moisture resistant, but we have several green options too. Or we got some beautiful reclaimed oak.
But floored by his success, he needs to hire more installers.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Right before the break, I mentioned that this story's been on my mind all week long. It probably has been on your mind as well. The story of a 15-year-old disabled boy in California who had federal agents pull a gun out on him as they were suspecting him of being undocumented and all of that. This is a story that is really a sign of the times. It's a story that reminds us that federal law enforcement, specifically the National Guard that's been federalized, ICE agents are not trained in local policing. It doesn't take much for things to go from bad to worse in a second. And so earlier this week, I put this question to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, and somebody who claims that she reads the LA Times every day and questioned the credibility of this story. I haven't heard back from Caroline Leavitt. In fact, I saw her today at the White House and she didn't say anything about it. So I took this question directly to her boss, the President of the United States. I took this question to President Trump. I want you to take a listen at our exchange in the Oval Office. LA, Mr. President, earlier today, the Washington, D.C. police chief issued an executive order allowing Metropolitan police officers conducting traffic stops to notify federal immigration and customs enforcement about undocumented immigrants that they encounter. Yet the city has a long-standing pro-immigration policy, including allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections,
which is ridiculous,
and limiting cooperation with federal immigration agencies. Right. Did your administration pressure the DC police chief to review and repeal these policies, and will you require other cities to roll back similar policies to avoid possible federal takeover of local law?
Yeah, so what you're saying is that it was a very positive thing. When they stop people, they find they're illegal, they report them, they give them to us, etc. That's a very positive thing. I have heard that. It just happened. That's a great step. That's a great step if they're doing that. Yeah, I think that's going to happen all over the country. We want to stop crime. I think if the Democrats aren't strong on this issue, they won't be able to do it. I think this is a bigger issue than all of the other ridiculous things that they, like open borders. Well, open borders is bad. Open borders has caused a lot of this problem, allowing millions and millions. I think 24 million people were allowed to come into our country. Many of these people from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions. This was the Biden policy. And I don't believe it was him. He was never there before. It was the people that encircled this very beautiful desk, the Resolute desk, radical left lunatics who were smart, but radical left. And I'm very happy to hear what you just said, because I've heard that.
And Mr. President, on LA, if I may, the mother of a 15-year-old California boy was briefly detained at gunpoint in the case of mistaken identity. The LAUSD superintendent says that surveillance video shows armed agents wearing police and border patrol insignia. Given the National Guard, the border control, ICE agents, they're not trained in local policing. What specific steps are you taking to ensure that young people are not put in harm's way with these types of operations?
You know, what they are trained in is common sense, and they're very tough people. And they have great common sense, and they are highly trained. I heard the mayor of LA was saying, oh, they're not trained this way. I heard this character from, where was he from? They talk about him as a candidate. He's got no chance. The governor of Maryland, I watched him this morning saying that the governor of Maryland, yeah. They say maybe he'll be a president. He's not presidential timber at all. But I heard him today talking about how the National Guard or the military is not trained in police, but they're trained in common sense, and they're trained in not allowing people to burn down buildings and bomb buildings and shoot people and all the things. They've done a great job. Again, if we didn't send them, and very importantly, if we didn't send them into Los Angeles, the rest of Los Angeles would have been burned down to the ground. When you look at Minnesota, Minneapolis, I sent them into Minneapolis because the governor wouldn't make a call. If I didn't do that, you wouldn't have a Minneapolis. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be existent today. You remember the famous scene burning over the CNN anchor's shoulder. He said, everything seems to be very peaceful. And behind him, the whole city's burning down. So you had the whack job governor who ran for vice president and made a fool out of himself. You would have had, I saved that city. I'll tell you, I saved that city. So the bottom line is these are very tough people that are trained in a thing called common sense. And they're also trained in doing what we're talking about right now. And you watch crime stop, but you wouldn't have Los Angeles. It wouldn't be existent today. We would have had to cancel the Olympics if I let that go on.
Mr. President. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I was just sharing with you a clip from what President Trump shared with me today in the Oval Office to help unpack all of that. And there's a lot to unpack here. I'm now joined with my friend and colleague, Dr. Calvin John Smiley. He's associate professor over at Hunter College in New York. He's also the author of a number of books, including a book that is one of the gold standards. It is a book that we have oftentimes plugged on this show. And I definitely encourage you to go out and get it if it would populate on my screen. Dr. Smiley, tell us the name of the book.
I believe you're referencing my book, Defund Conversations Towards Abolition, which is also right above my shoulder. And then my other book, too. I got all my books right behind me.
There you have it. There you have it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So Dr. Smiley, what's your reaction? The president said a lot in the Oval today, and then, of course, didn't say much in the Oval today. What do you make of it?
I mean, as we listen to it, I can't help but chuckle in the sense that we live in the dystopic times that are those futuristic movies where you have someone who is just vomiting, nonsense. But what is also really frightening is a lot of the things that he says aren't actually new or something other than what's been used in the wheelhouse of fascism before. It's going after the other, which is, the external other, which is his whole thing around immigration and closing the borders. But now we're seeing the internal other, where he's going after inner cities. And, that's been code since at least the mid-1960s for Black and brown people. And so it's all these kind of dog whistles that is going to continue to allow a much more authoritarian and fascist regime to continue to be cruel and punish and actually cause a lot more harm than good that he's claiming he's doing. I mean, the fact that he's sitting here and, just dismissing why Minneapolis was on fire. Minneapolis was on fire because 4 cops killed a black man, and people are fed up with those kind of responses by law enforcement. And so you had an excellent point to bring to him. You have an agent who is pulling a gun that could have gone really, really badly. And for him to be just outright dismissive of it, just again highlights the type of fear that many people are feeling in this country because we have someone who is so erratic.
I was really taken aback to be president of the United States. I mean, he is no newbie, right? He's in his second term. And the fact that the focal point of the question was a 15-year-old disabled kid. And in his response, he completely skipped over the kid and was anxious to politically whack the mayor of Los Angeles, to politically whack the governor of Maryland, to politically whack the governor of Minnesota. And this is Trump's greatest hits. I get that. But I just wonder, for all the folks out there that are supporters of the president, that are also parents and loved ones of kids that have special needs, those aren't just Democrats. Those are Republicans, those are independents, those are Green Party people, right? And so how do you think his response and lack thereof may play with folks that are a part of his base that actually might see a little bit of their humanity and the humanity of this 15-year-old kid and his mom?
Yeah, I mean, to your first point about that 15-year-old disabled boy, we know the statistics that law enforcement disproportionately arrests, fines, jails, people with problems, special needs problems. When it comes to schooling, it is often LGBT folks, students of color, and disabled students who are at a higher rate being expelled or suspended. But I think to your question around the base is, I have no faith in his base, right? I mean, if you're still riding with Trump at this point, one has to question what your actual values are. I mean, the man has, whether it was in his first term or running up into his first term, the 4 years in between, or now in his second term, I don't think that there is a population that he hasn't offended, right? I mean, if we go back to him making fun of the New York Times reporter who had a physical disability, to standing with the Proud Boys, to going after people, the bad hombres. I mean, we just know all of the different things he said. So, it's one of these areas where, and we've talked about this both on your show, and I've heard other people talk, there's a Trumpism. There's an ideology that people follow. And so when you move from being aligned with someone politically to having their political ideology, you can make lemonade out of those lemons, because you will just fundamentally twist in your brain what that means to you or justify it. And that's exactly what we see Trump do all the time.
Dr. Smiley, the first question that I put to the president was about a decision that the DC police chief, Pamela Smith, made recently. She issued an executive order earlier today allowing officers to make traffic stops to notify federal immigration and customs enforcement agents about undocumented immigrants that they encounter. Basically, this is a 180 on any sort of sanctuary city policy that existed here in the district. Is this becoming the cost of doing business, the cost of keeping Trump out of your city, out of taking control, or at least attempting to take control of police departments and federalize the National Guard? Is this becoming the price of doing business?
I mean, if it is, then we are in a poop storm ahead of us, because what we are now seeing is, everyone talks about, fascism. That is fascism. We are living in a fascist state. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. But it also goes back to what the Obama administration fought in Arizona when Arizona tried passing SB 1070 that would allow local and state authorities to ask people for their papers. And the Obama administration fought against that and won. That is a federal issue. So local authorities should not be giving over that information or then creating that bridge where they can now stop people to ask for that, to then give that information to federal authorities. And if this is the price of doing business, I don't want to be in that business.
Yeah, neither you or me or so many of our leaders, learners, and listeners. We know that as this decision is gaining attention, so is the mayor's travel to Martha's Vineyard. Stories out. Fox 5 DC is reporting that DC Mayor Muriel Bowser flew to Martha's Vineyard while the city is under federal control. Sources have confirmed that the mayor is in Martha's Vineyard for a family commitment. She's expected to return to DC tomorrow afternoon. The mayor's travel comes as President Trump has moved to expand federal authority over DC's police and homeless encampments. There are sources that say that federal officials intend to come out and force tonight. And they are intending to either push out or arrest unhoused folks on the street here in DC in numbers that we haven't seen before. When we come forward, Dr. Smiley, I want to get your take on the politics of this versus the optics of this. The mayor said that she's fulfilling a family commitment. Martha's Vineyard isn't all that far from DC, but it's not in DC. How do you think this thing is going to play in the days and weeks ahead? We'll get your view on that and more when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. A new eviction protection office has opened in South Los Angeles Crenshaw area. Black Mayor Karen Bass says the We Are LA program, launched in 2023, has helped over 105,000 people stay in their homes, with more than 1,000 already getting eviction defense at the new site.
Preventing the inflow of people on the street has been one of the greatest challenges.
The program is funded by the city, Measure ULA, and donations. Most of the Texas House Democrats who fled to block a GOP redistricting map they say will harm voters of color are expected to return this weekend after the special session ends Friday. Governor Greg Abbott plans to call another session immediately. And former New York Governor David Paterson is endorsing Black Mayor Eric Adams in the crowded NYC mayoral race, calling him the leader New Yorkers need for protection. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
In Baldwin Park on the 10, eastbound at Puente Avenue, it's a crash on the right shoulder that's slowing things about 20 minutes or so. Slow traffic from Delmar Avenue. Willowbrook, had trouble on the 105 freeway eastbound before Wilmington Avenue. It's right shoulder now, that crash. Stop and go from the 405, however. In Monrovia, the 210 freeway eastbound past Huntington Drive, there's another right shoulder crash, and you're slow from Colorado Street.
Attention 405 drivers. From 10 p.m. Friday, August 22nd to 5 a.m. Monday, August 25th, the 405 will be down to 3 lanes in both directions through Sepulveda Pass. Expect delays. Plan ahead, take alternate routes, or use public transit. Follow at Caltrans District 7 for updates.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A federal appeals court in New York City ruled Thursday morning that the NFL can be put on trial for a civil lawsuit filed against the league for allegations of racial discrimination in the hiring process of black head coaches. The lawsuit was filed in 2022 by Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores on behalf of black candidates who claimed unfair treatment in their pursuit of head coaching jobs. Fleury's lawsuit includes the Denver Broncos, New York Giants, and Houston Texans. In 2022, Fleury, the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, was interviewed by the three teams but passed over for the job each time. When Fleury's interviewed with the Giants privately had already made the decision to hire current coach Brian Daboll. The Giants situation led to Fleury's lawsuit. As the NFL approaches the 2025 season, only 5 of the 32 teams have a black head coach. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay! If you're an adult in need of an accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You can earn one for free in as few as 5 months online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and it is always an honor to be in conversation with my friend and colleague, Dr. Calvin John Smiley. He is Associate Professor over at Hunter College. He's also the author of Purgatory Citizenship, Reentry, Race, and Abolition. And he is here with us to separate the fact from the fiction. In this case, to separate the optics from the politics, if that's even possible. Before the break, I had shared with you all that Fox 5 DC and a number of other outlets are reporting that DC Mayor Muriel Bowser is in Martha's Vineyard. She is fulfilling a family commitment. She's expected to be back in the district tomorrow afternoon. We certainly know what heat the mayor of Los Angeles caught when she happened to be in Ghana at the invitation of President Biden for that inauguration when the LA wildfires broke out. Is there any comparison here, Dr. Smiley?
Well, it's one of those, it's a tough thing because I'm sure, like all of us, there are arrangements made and schedules to be had. And, as a black politician, you're going to catch hell either way. But at the same time, I do understand your question of the politics versus the optics, because what they will do is they are going to run wild with those optics to politicize this idea of her being up there. Should she come home, or should she have canceled the plans and shown a stronger leadership? I think you could make that argument. But if I'm going to play devil's advocate against myself, she's already bent the proverbial knee with what we had already spoken about, allowing, President Trump and federal agents to allow local authorities. So, I mean, I don't really know where or how she could come out of this whole not looking or being dragged through the mud, as we would say, because it's a tough position. Even if she wasn't in DC, I mean, is she going to be out there leading the way to, stop whatever federal authorities are going to roll down the streets? Probably not. So I don't know. I really don't. It's a tough question, like you said, but optically, yeah, they're gonna drag her.
Yeah, and in all fairness, there are sources that are telling me that the mayor has a family commitment and had to pick up her daughter, and again will return to the district tomorrow. I thought it was strange when I first saw it. I thought, oh well, maybe this is AI, or maybe this is some sort of misinformation that's out there. I had a number of sources that were texting me about this, and I said, well, that can't be true, because I just saw the mayor she did a press conference here in DC, and she's had a number of interviews that she's done that look like they were done in DC. And so, if she got up to Martha's Vineyard, she got up there pretty quickly, but clearly not quick enough, given what is trending on social media. In other news, Governor Gavin Newsom is making some big news today. Newsom calls for a special November election to block Trump from rigging the 2026 midterms. The LA Times is reporting that the governor said that California voters will be asked in a November 4th special election to temporarily suspend the congressional maps drawn by the state's independent redistricting commission if the effort by Democrats, if it's successful, it could blunt changes to the GOP states to boost the number of Republicans in Congress. Talking about the optics and the politics of things, what do you make of Gavin Newsom's decision to essentially push the nuclear button when it comes to redistricting efforts?
Yeah, I think it's actually a really important thing to do. We've been seeing efforts. I mean, this goes back to what many historians and scholars call the Southern strategy. We've seen since the civil rights movement, Republicans and conservatives trying to gain larger footholds in more populous areas, in more what would be historically black or brown areas, or areas where they're more Democrat or liberal leaning, by diluting them or splitting those districts up. And so, we are at a point where fighting fire with fire, I think, is totally on the table. The Democratic strategy of we are the party of morals, when they are certainly not the party of morals, needs to kind of be set aside, and they need to come up with clever strategies that are still within the parameters of a democratic society, and put their foot to the gas, because we know what Trump is trying to do. We know what the conservative parties, we know what places like the Heritage Fund are trying to do. We are seeing it unfold daily in front of our eyes, rolling back so many different things. And the way that they do it is by redistricting, and so they can pull more votes away from the Democratic Party. So I think this is a smart strategy.
Do you expect other Democratic governors to follow suit? I mean, is this, Gavin, really assuming the mantle when it comes to the void, when it comes to leaders in the Democratic Party? Is this Gavin sort of going it alone and perhaps a test case, or should we expect other Democratic governors to follow suit?
I mean, it would be great to see others come, and lift that mantle as well, because as we know, it's always easier to fight in larger numbers and push back against it. So I would love to see other states really put that effort forward and demand that these district lines aren't going to get redrawn in these kind of shady ways, and doing it so that people, us, we don't lose what we are voting for, because that's really what this is about. I mean, when we think about the redistricting of these districts, that's it. It's how we get to the point where we are now, where we see people representing us who don't represent us. And so how do we thwart that and combat that? And I think it would be great to see other states' leadership get behind that, and even a national party get behind that.
And do you think that Trump's most recent actions, with regard to threats of putting homeless people in detention camps, seizing control of local policing here in Washington, D.C., threatening to do it in other cities across the country, the more provocative, the more aggressive that Trump and his administration get, how well does that bode heading into a November special election in California, potentially other blue states?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that we have a president, a federal government that is doing these things and keeps pushing the envelope, but the envelope is already open, right? This is fascism. I keep saying that, but I want your listeners to know that, we often think about history in this kind of vacuum where, people like Hitler or other horrible people did things and everything was chaos. No, the reason why Hitler and all these other horrible people were able to do what they did was because many of us went about our normal lives in our everyday, while others, the marginalized, were systematically stripped of their civil rights, thrown into these gulags and other silos like prisons, or hurting homeless people. And so I think that we continue, if we want to see this being stopped, we need to see more people doing what Governor Gavin Newsom's doing, and even what we see people like Zohan Mandani and Omar Fateh in Minneapolis and New York fighting against these politics as usual.
Does Gavin Newsom represent the best chance Democrats have, not just in this 2026 midterm cycle to regain control of Congress, but, are you seeing him sort of set himself apart from other names that have been mentioned as presidential contenders in 2028?
Oof. I think he's trying to. I don't know if I personally see him as that. I still think he's still a kind of middle of the road Democrat. Maybe he's a little bit more progressive than others, especially some of what we would call old guard. But I think that he's going to have to continue to see more progressive and more a bigger push towards more of these issues around affordability, around policing, around what's happening globally in the Middle East, etc. I would say where I sit, the two men I mentioned are really the ones representing young millennials and Gen Zers in a way that I don't know if Gavin is polling with them.
Maybe. But Dr. Smiley, in our remaining moments with you, I mentioned earlier that you are the author of Purgatory Citizenship, Reentry, Race, and Abolition. You'd have to be hiding under a rock to not see how quickly the prison industrial complex is growing right before our very eyes, with the full-fledged support of President Trump and his administration. I want to give you an opportunity to share with our leaders, learners, and listeners what's keeping you up late at night as somebody who has studied these issues very, very closely. And, what is it that everyday people might be missing about these headlines that are really setting back decades and decades and decades of work and efforts towards dismantling the prison industrial complex?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, what keeps me up at night is that, when we think about crime is emotional. It hits us hard. No one wants to be a victim of crime. And so we often see how people, rightly so, can have a visceral emotional response to it. But the reality is that the data shows us that if we want to reduce crime, we have to invest in those same people that might do bad things. And not just people, but into communities. So we have to think about how do we invest in care, harm reduction, trauma-informed practices, rather than beat them up, lock them up, throw away the key. We look at around the country in these cities that we just talked about, Baltimore, New York, Chicago even. Crime is going down. And what is the through line? We have mayors, well, not maybe New York, that's different, but definitely Chicago, definitely Baltimore, where we have mayors who are investing in community programs, youth outreach, violence interrupters, credible messengers, and we're seeing homicides at historic lows. We are not going to arrest our way or imprison our way out of crime. And so when we hear Trump and his cronies talking about that, we're just going to mass arrest all of the immigrants, all of the homeless people, all of the quote unquote bad people, which AKA we know stands as a stand-in for black and brown people, that is only going to create more problems and create more of crime, because we are stripping people of their civic rights every time someone is arrested.
Always feel a little bit smarter chatting with you. Our thanks to Dr. Calvin John Smiley, holding it down over at Hunter College. What are you teaching this semester?
I am on sabbatical, so I am not teaching this fall. I will be working on some new projects, some writing, and working with my organization, which is Till Everything Better, which works with system-impacted youth here in New York City, doing restorative justice practices and programs.
A man with a plan. That's right. Our thanks to Dr. Calvin John Smiley. Please come back again soon and pick up his book, Purgatory Citizenship. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, the quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
You have cancer. The 3 words no one wants to hear. Of the cancers that impact our community, lung cancer is the most dangerous. More people succumb to lung cancer than colon, breast, and prostate combined. Black men are 12% more likely to develop lung cancer, and cases for Black women are rising. Early detection and comprehensive treatment is the best way to beat this dreaded disease. Providence is a research leader in multi-cancer early detection, offering blood tests that identify fast-spreading cancers that don't show symptoms in early stages. The Providence Los Angeles Integrated Network Cancer Program determines best protocols for each patient, interacting with specialists who share experiences, perspectives, and new findings specific to each case. With over 1,000 board-certified physicians, including top oncologists, surgeons, radiologists, and nurse specialists, Providence delivers whole-person care that understands your culture, values, preferences, and priorities. So, if you hear the words, "you have cancer," all you need is faith and providence.org/cancer.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah, breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on autopsy, then click on request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and it's time for the quiet part out loud. And now you've heard me, talk about my encounter with President Trump today in the Oval Office. You saw how, in response to my question about the 15-year-old boy with disabilities in Los Angeles, that was the subject of aggression on the part of some ICE agents and Border Patrol people that were federalized and around Arleta High School. You heard that the president skipped over addressing that young person, addressing his mother, addressing his family, his community, addressing, the parents and teachers, not just in the Los Angeles Unified School District, but across the country, that are feeling uneasy about these federal law enforcement folks that are coming into town. You saw him leap over all of that to take a political whack at LA Mayor Karen Bass. And she's not the only name that keeps coming up as this administration talks about their agenda related to policing and federalizing the National Guard and taking control. In fact, mayors of Democratic cities beyond DC are decrying Trump's takeover threats. NPR is reporting that when President Trump announced his plans to mobilize Washington, D.C.'s National Guard and take control of the city's local police force, he suggested that other liberal-leaning cities could be next, saying just this past Monday, quotes, "You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're now going to lose our cities over this, and this will go further." That's what the President of the United States said just this past Monday. Now, the mayors of those cities, all of whom, watch this, all of whom are Black and Democrats, they've pushed back against Trump in recent days, pointing to data that shows that crime is down in these communities. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Crime is down in these communities. All that data that people used to say, oh my goodness, crime is out of control. We need more police on the streets. Well, so many of those same data sources are saying crime is down across the country. Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee and New York City Mayor Eric Adams, they've declared that they will not allow federal law enforcement to take over their cities. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says that Trump doesn't have the authority to federalize local law enforcement in the first place. Now, while that may be true, let me just say this. There are a lot of folks that have said that President Trump doesn't have the authority to do a lot of things, and he's done them anyway. And in his view, if past his prologue, let the courts figure it out. What happens in that scenario? Well, he's provoking. He's provoking on sending federal troops. the National Guard in the cities to plunder them through entities that do not have policing power. That's what Mayor Johnson of Chicago said. He went on to say that they can't even do the very thing that he claims he wants them to do. And legal experts agree. Rick Hills, a professor of law at New York University School of Law, he told sources that Trump, quotes, cannot repeat what he's doing in any other cities. But talking about all this stuff, it scores political points for both sides. While most elected officials in D.C. have been publicly critical of Trump's law enforcement takeover of the city, some leaders and locals have embraced it or are more restrained in their criticism. Trump has a lot more power over D.C. than he does other cities. And folks have got to look at the home rule law. D.C. is situated very differently. So when people say, oh, my goodness, Mayor Bowser could be doing more, she is more restrained than any other mayor in this country because of the relationship between D.C. and the federal government and the President of the United States. D.C. is a federally created and controlled city. The 1973 Home Rule Act gave D.C. its limited form of self-governance while retaining certain powers for Congress and the president. Right now, at the very best, we can hope that this thing dies down in 30 days, but the president's already signaling to Congress that he wants them to extend this beyond 30 days. There are members of Congress like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer that said, heck no, really more HE double hockey sticks no. But we shall see. This truly is a sign of the times. When we come forward, we are switching gears. I'm really looking forward to sharing my conversation with Adam Nimoy, as in Leonard Nimoy's son. Are there any Star Trek fans out there? Well, he has a new book where he delves into the very complicated relationship with his iconic father. We talk about that and more when we come forward right here on A More Perfect Union.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Attorneys for Peyton Gendron, the white gunman who killed 10 black people in a 2022 Buffalo, New York supermarket attack, want federal charges dropped, citing a lack of minority representation on the grand jury. He's serving a life sentence on state charges while prosecutors deny any bias in jury selection. A federal judge is refusing to block Alabama's ban on DEI programs in certain divisive